Good evening, folks. Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review. My name's Paul, and welcome to. It's not a transfer show as such. It's we're just bringing you all the latest news from the first day of the transfer window. Whether we think Newcastle are going to be busy once Monday morning comes around, because it is a Sunday. It's a very, it's God's day in the eyes of a lot of people. So they're maybe just having a peaceful start to the window. However, there is some activity involving players that Newcastle United have been linked with. But I'm joined tonight by Mr. Stato and Mr. Trey. Good evening, fellas.
And good evening to all the Magpie Massive and the Toon of you fantastic people out there in Viewerland.
Billy, would you like to model what you're wearing tonight?
I've got a big TTR. Yes, I have.
Is that one of the TTR t-shirts?
It is, fantastic it is.
On the toonreview.com website.
Yes, nice baggy fit too. For someone of my size, that's something I don't say very often.
And Alex is also wearing the hoodie.
Apart from with a woman.
Dear me. Blaming hell. Unbelievable. Well, welcome everybody. Well, there you are. That is the official website there of the Toon Review for all your needs for merchandise to support the channel that way. Anyway, the transfer window is open for 10 days, ladies and gentlemen, before it shuts for the Club World Cup, and then it opens again for the rest of the summer. And well, it's been, as Newcastle United concerned, very quiet. Still, it's very early days, and I don't think anybody should be panicking yet. I've seen quite a few Newcastle fans on social media panicking already, saying, why haven't we got a deal done, etc., etc. However, I think, we will get, this is just me talking, by the way, but I'm just hoping in my own heart that we start activity very soon, because Eddie Howe did say in his press conferences leading up to the end of the season that it was very important that Newcastle got their business done early. So I am fully behind Eddie Howe sorting this out. But one player, Billy, who is heading to another club, who was linked with Newcastle, is Kelleher from Liverpool. £12.5 million deal with Brentford.
Excellent price, isn't it, for a young prospect like Kelleher? He did make the mistake, but he's a young keeper, and I think he's going to be a good signing for them. Flecken's going back home or going to Germany, I think. So, fantastic replacement for him. Would have been too disappointed had we have been in for him at that price, especially £12.5 million. Nothing, is it?
Yeah, it's a good price, definitely.
Now, obviously, the goalkeeper situation has got conversation going, Alex. And, Garcia from Espanyol, he's going to Barcelona. And I think a lot of people were saying that it was mainly drummed up by the agent, the move to the Premier League, etc. There was a few reports last week saying Newcastle were close to getting the deal done. It doesn't look like that was the case at all. So the two goalkeepers on the list that maybe have disappeared into the sunset, which leaves Trafford, of course, who is still very heavily linked.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see that many Kelleher links, to be completely honest. And the links were a very long time ago, and it was just recycled content. There's not been anything reasonable as of late about Kelleher, and I never thought that was gonna kind of transpire. But the Garcia option was an interesting one from Espanyol, the goalkeeper, because I don't know, we just thought it was a weird one. It was a really weird one that came out of left field for us to be linked with. It's like, well, the only reason really we could be linked with him is if it genuinely is serious and if we've got a chance, because it just came out of nowhere. It was a bit weird. Yeah, but no, obviously he's had the here we go from Fabrizio Romano, and it's a weird one because Espanyol is a huge rival of Barcelona, so it's a very controversial move. But we will have to do something in the goalkeeping department. I know there's a lot of people say we need to prioritize other areas. However, this is a big transfer window, and our goalkeeping situation, we can't put it off forever. Nick Pope, I think, has got 1 year left starting this new season, and is in his 30s, not as good a kicker. Dubravka's in a similar situation in reverse, where he's got a couple of other things wrong with his game. But they're both still very good goalkeepers. And then the rest of them we're just never going to use. So I think we are at that crossroads now where we probably need to pull the trigger on a goalkeeper at some point, like a not just another random free transfer or a 40-year-old, somebody that we think can grow into the shoes of a kicker, a sweeper, a shot stopper, and that's not in their 30s. That's what we now need to go and look for. So we'll see if it's going to be this window.
Well, DK35 says, please know Trafford, he is a rabbit in the headlights, weak on confidence. Have you seen him this season, DK? He's he's been absolutely magnificent for Burnley. Granted, a good defence in front of him as well, but he's been one of the star men for Burnley this season. I mean, listen, people have opinions on Trafford. Claire says Burnley will screw us over with Trafford.
Well, we've dealt with them before, and we bought Nick Pope directly from Burnley. So historically, that's nonsense. You might be right, but historically, that's nonsense.
And Chris Wood, of course.
Yeah, Chris Wood. Yeah,
we've got a good relationship with Burnley, but as in the last 3 seasons, new regime and Eddie Howe have dealt with them. So Eddie Howe managed Burnley. Like, I can't imagine the relationship's that bad.
Yeah. I can imagine that Nick Pope going the other way could be some part of the deal. Possibly.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's been said many times, hasn't it? If we do a deal with Trafford, would that sort of saying to Nick Pope, go back to Burnley? I mean, I don't know. Brian, I would take no notice, matey. I saw that story this morning. Simeone Inzaghi to replace Eddie Howe.
Who's written that?
Some random. Inzaghi's actually been heavily linked with the Al Hilal job. So, and of course, speaking of Al Hilal, Billy, Paul Mitchell, very heavily linked with going there. PIF doing a little bit of a good job by getting them over there rather than to a rival over here.
Well, he has gone by mutual consent. It's not a case of him really falling out, throwing his toys out of the pram and leaving him there and then. He's with us till the end of June, so I think it's a friendly split, if I'm perfectly honest. The way it looks as it is now, with rumours of him going to Saudi, I don't think there's as much kind of drama in it as what we originally thought. Yeah, if I'm perfectly honest.
Funny that.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I read 2 reports on this today, and both said the same thing, that maybe it wasn't, we're talking about a mutual sort of parting of the ways. However, PIF really sort of putting the foot down with getting Mitchell out to Al Hilal, because obviously 75% of that club is owned by PIF, and stops him going to anybody.
It's clearly not that much of a fallout if they're willing to continue working.
I'm not saying there was a fallout or anything like that. I'm just saying I think.
Yeah, but a lot of other people are suggesting that, and it's us on this channel threw it out there saying that, well, potentially it's not. Let's not just assume. And then Simon Jordan came out with the same thing and got absolutely crucified for it, and then he stood his ground on it as he always does. And then the fact that Mitchell might be going to continue working with the PIF in a different capacity kind of proves that maybe there were some issues, but it was maybe at club level, Eddie Howe level, but they still appreciate who he is and they want him.
Yeah, well, I mentioned that in the video earlier, Alex. He said the CV that this man has, he's going to be wanted by a lot of big clubs. And, I think PIF, if they get him to Al Hilal, I think they pull the blinder by keeping him away from our rivals over here. I think it's a brilliant move. Look, we'll see what develops with that. Apparently he's on a list of 3. The sporting director at Liverpool, I think he's one of them. That didn't actually say who the other one was, but apparently they're going to want a manager in first and then a sporting director, which seems a little bit strange to me why they're going that way around. Normally it's a sporting director first and then he helps with the manager. But if Inzaghi's already been tapped up, shall we say, because he is expected to leave Inter Milan now, isn't he, after the Champions League, thrashing that they took at the hands of PSG last night. Unfortunately, we have to.
I don't think the Liverpool sporting director will be going anywhere. He's just gone there, hasn't he, Richard?
Yeah, it did say, Billy, that he will probably want to stay where he is and see the process through, which is nice because we don't seem to get one that does want to follow the process through. But hey, who knows what happens? Now, unfortunately, we do have to talk about Anthony Gordon, chaps, because a lot of reports today on the first day of the transfer window are suggesting that Liverpool are going to step up their interest in Gordon. But it seems to be all dependent on whether Luis Diaz moves to Saudi Arabia. Apparently, they've been offered some great money for him. If that does happen, then they will turn to Anthony Gordon. Now, Newcastle United probably want at least £80 million, double what we paid for him at least. Now, I discussed this on the video that I did today because it mentioned that Newcastle United would probably do that deal if they were offered enough money rather than lose an Isak or a Livramento to keep funds coming in. I mean, what do you make of that, Billy?
I don't think we need to sell anyone. I thought the PSR problems were solved last summer and then January transfer window. So,
well,
I don't
you say that, but
there
is still a lot going around that mentioned PSR with Newcastle United. I don't know
why.
I
don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think it's people, again, just trying to put us down and trying to make kind of chaos at something that isn't there.
Yeah.
We've had 3 windows without really spending any money, so and sold players in the process to get us out of the PSR problems.
Yeah,
I don't see us being in PSR problems this season and this summer. And then, actual fact, the fact we've got Champions League football, I think we'll be spending quite a hefty lot.
Yeah, I mean, Billy's right, Alex. We're not in a position where we need to sell, and I think that's been drummed up by other media sources trying to once again claim that Newcastle United can't spend. And I think they'll be shut up. I genuinely think we'll go and make some good buys this week. However, Anthony Gordon, I don't want to lose Anthony Gordon. Yes, he had an indifferent season, I think, last year, but there was many, many different reasons for that. We talk about Mbeumo, Gordon, and Isak as our front 3 next season and how absolutely devastating that would be. I'd be quite gutted if we lost Anthony Gordon. But of course, the Liverpool links with him being a fan and things like that, they've never really gone away either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to throw people straight under the bus. And you, again, Bending Johnson, sorry if I am throwing you massively under the bus here. He hasn't been great. I think that's ludicrous to state. Maybe you were talking about if we receive a good fee, then fair enough. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh to you and a few others who have commented on this. But 20 goal contributions followed by last season's 15 is 2 fantastic seasons for somebody under the age of 25. He's still 24 years old. He's not going to be 25 until February of next year. So he's really, really young. He's an England, full England international, and he's brilliant. Work rate, style, and if anything, he can get a lot better, which is frightening. So yeah, I think some of the negativity is just outrageous, and I think it's well, we've had this conversation last week that I don't think it's an opinion. I think it's just an incorrect. It's just incorrect because he's had 20 goal contributions followed by 15. He's more than adequate. We're one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and he contributed to that. He was fine. He just needs a bit of a break, to be honest.
A lot of people in the chat are saying that they'd take 80 million for him if we were offered.
Well,
that.
look, that was my next point. Is if somebody puts 80 in an email, I'm going to pull up my chair, 100%. 100%. I will sit at the table and have a conversation because that is double what we paid for him. I don't quite know where we are at the finances. I'm sure Martin would love digging into that. So maybe you can have a little look. But I'm sure we've paid off a reasonable amount of Gordon's fee to date. So it's not going to be pure profit, but there'll be a hefty chunk. So if we could get 80 or upwards of that plus some add-ons, is that tempting? I mean, it could be because I think we've got a reasonable war chest right now. And if you go and put... And to be completely honest, left-sided players is where we are already stacked. So if we could afford to maybe lose one player in any position, it's that position. Not that I want to. I would rather do this with Gordon. But if we added, what would we get? If plus profit, we'd probably be able to put 60 back into a war chest, which we can use a little bit more.
Could get a couple of players, couldn't it? So...
we could massively push with the squad.
Yeah.
So it might be sacrificing a loved one for the sake of really overhauling the squad and pushing on. But it would have to be a transformative fee. It would have to be enough
definitely.
that we could then go and do some crazy things with the squad recruitment wise. If they don't offer that, not a chance. He's untouchable. It's got to be the right fee because his potential. He's 24 years old.
Hang on, I was going to read a comment out there, but I have lost it. Where's it gone? No, it's gone. It's disappeared. It was right in front of me a second ago. It's probably still there. Oh, there you go. Steve says, I can't see you spending in this 10-day window. Why, Steve? I'm intrigued to know why you feel like that, that we're not going to spend in the 10-day window when the manager's come out and said clearly that he wants to get deals done early. But I'd be intrigued to find out. So you just put
it's day one and there's no whispers yet, but maybe they're working. We've never really been privy to Mitchell signings yet, and this is going to be Mitchell signings, even though he's leaving. He's definitely helping. So, are we going to get some under the radar stuff for once? Because it's been pretty out there for a lot of transfers.
Yeah, but a lot of Alex, if you can remember after the takeover, you'll both remember that some of the deals that we did were very much under the radar.
Bruno and Isak were both quite. I think a lot of people were quite surprised.
Yeah,
but others weren't.
Well, Dan Burn came out of nowhere. Dan Burn came out of nowhere from Brighton. We weren't even linked with him.
Yeah, but they were scrambling deadline day, weren't they?
Well,
I think that was a unique situation where they were scrambling for the right experience, and they just got quite fortunate with the recruitment there.
Tickle My Tonali with a super chat saying, hope Saudi link for Bruno Fernandes is not a club owned by PIF. The thought of funding the dirty Manx makes my blood boil. Well,
I believe it is.
Yeah. Alex will have a say on that if the transfer does take place. Jens,
I think they own 4, don't they? They own 4 clubs, and Al Hilal
4.
is one of the 4.
Yeah. Well, Al Hilal's 75%. They don't have an outright ownership of them. In fact, I think it might be the same with the few.
In all but name.
Yeah, 75%. They have the majority, don't they? Jens with a super chat. Thank you, Jens, saying, so how corrupt is all of this? If Liverpool get over 70 million for Diaz, Fernandes for 80 million, and clubs wanted us to be looked at for Maxi, Anderson, oh my God. Yeah, I mean, Alex has spoke about this, and I'm sure, we haven't heard the last of that. If some of these deals do go ahead, you do have to have a serious look and say, hang on a minute. We thought Maxi was undervalued. Yet they wanted to investigate us. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Peter McCardle's been a member for 16 months. Thank you, Peter. Getafe midfielder. Is that sound? Well, yeah. Who we have supposedly been linked with, looks a player, 30 million release clause. There's many players that we will be linked with, put it that way. Many players that we will be linked with in the next few days. However, it was interesting. I read an article this afternoon saying that Peter Carthwich has come in with a super chat as well. Eddie is busy doing Wilson's new 5-year deal. Peter, man, honestly, can you put something positive tonight? Just for once, please.
That might be positive. He might get some bionic legs.
Oh, well, maybe. I know you're not a fan of Eddie, Peter, but come on. Yeah, I read an article today saying about Newcastle United, how they may take advantage of other clubs' PSR situation. And 3 clubs were mentioned, and it kind of made me laugh with 2 of them. The first one was Aston Villa, who we've spoken about before, that they, after not making the Champions League, probably amongst a lot of the Premier League teams, are one of the big ones that do have to sell to cover the PSR. But the other 2 clubs, guys, Manchester United and Chelsea.
They've just spent 62 million
on Cunha, but they believe that they will have to sell, including Chelsea as well, even though Chelsea are buying players, but they will have to sell to cover it. So could there be a fire sale at Newton Heath or Chelsea, do you think? Oh, well, is there anybody at Newton Heath that we'd want? I'm not quite sure.
Chelsea are already trying to get rid of people like Raheem Sterling, people like that who isn't going to sign for Arsenal, and people like that have signed in the past and done nothing for them. There's lots of players like that. And eventually they're going to get rid of them for probably nothing. Just to get
we should all boycott. We should all just boycott buying anybody from those 2 clubs. The whole world should just unite and go, no, we're not helping you. And then they'll just crumble.
Yeah, good.
Or they'll just get a free pass.
Todd's in the chat, as usual. Whenever we put transfer in our links to shows, Todd Bowley, his phone goes off like a bat phone, and he has to tune in because, as you know, last year, as we were doing transfer shows and looking at certain players, a few days later, they were all signed for Chelsea. It was quite bizarre last year.
It was about 4 of them, we were linked with all went to Chelsea.
Strange. So there you go. NUFC Ollie says, Paul would love Cucurella from Chelsea. I would rather eat my own feces. Thank you very much. I don't want the Cookie Monster at Newcastle United. I've seen some people mention Garnacho if Gordon leaves.
Garnacho.
No thanks.
But Garnacho seems to me like he doesn't have the right attitude, fellas. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like Ruben Amorim has really had enough of him anyway.
He's a talented player, but I don't think he's.
Yeah, I mean, he might be the wrong club. But again, he could be one of these that leave Man United and flourish, and he probably will.
He could be,
but it's a risk, isn't it?
Yeah, well, go and put him in a Villarreal or an Inter, and he could just absolutely dominate. Like, very possibly. I mean, he's very talented.
He made a statement after the Champions League final, which I think pissed off a lot of Man United players and fans when he kind of made the tweet about him, saying that about his future and he played all the games leading up to the European final, and then he was on the bench, and he basically said it was one of the main reasons they got there was because of him. So I don't think we need that kind of prima donna coming into the Newcastle United dressing room for me. But yeah, he is a talented player, but I think, a terrific lad there says, Man U is a cancer of a club at the moment. It wouldn't have any of their players. Well, this is why, Billy, I'm very surprised that, Cunha's gone there. I mean, clearly for the money. It's certainly not a project. But then you get that ridiculous statement from Ben Jacobs saying about it being a kind of a squeaky process at Newcastle United. And then Mbeumo continues to be linked with Manchester United as well. I don't see, we spoke about this before, how Mbeumo, they can't afford him. There's no way. Not what Brentford will want for him. They cannot sign Cunha and Mbeumo in this window. And if they can, then I'd be taking a serious look and saying, how the hell is this possible? Because, the laying off staff, they can't pay for staff to go to the final. It's just a shit show of a club at the minute. And I don't see any reason why Bryan Mbeumo would look at Manchester United rather than Newcastle United, even though the United channels, Manchester United that is, continue to say that they're still this massive club. Well,
I would imagine that Brentford wouldn't be so generous in their scheduling of payments as Wolves were for Cunha.
Mm-hmm.
He's their main player, and I think they'd want something pretty much up front.
Yeah.
And I think we'd be able to do that. I don't think Man United will. I'm certain Man United can't do that. There are players Man United I'd take Mainu. I think Mainu's a very good player. I think he's going to be an excellent player.
Well, although that lady off the United stand had an absolute wobble when she was talking about that, though.
Beth. Yeah.
I'll take Mainu all day.
Attitude.
She's terrible against Newcastle United, Beth. She always comes out with, why would anyone go to Newcastle instead of Manchester United?
What she stated, stated was, she said something along the lines of, "Oh, well, we've got a bigger, apart from the Champions League, what have they really got? Because we've got a bigger stadium, a bigger club, a bigger this."
Yeah.
What do you mean apart from Champions League? That's what every club has beaten. They've beaten us with that stick for years, and now we've got the stick. They're not scared of it. They're pretending that we haven't got the big Champions League beat stick.
Yeah.
We've got the big Champions League beat stick. So step away and watch.
She's so nasty basically in her words as well. She really hates
us. That's why I'm being nasty with it. They're so attitudey about it. It's like
the way she. Goldbridge. It's banter with him. I genuinely think, but it's the way she looks at the camera. And Billy, you laughed when I said that, so you obviously know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's the way she looks at the camera and really stresses the point how. Why would anyone choose Newcastle United over Manchester United? And she's still living.
A manager that's getting players into their national teams, winning a trophy.
A lot of Man United fans are still back in 1999. It's ridiculous.
It's not what they signed up for. See, these 15th place finishes and no trophies and no
Champions
League. Not what these fans signed up for. They signed up Man United fans because they looked at the table one day and they were top of it. Simple and straightforward as that.
Clearly, yeah. The Man United down there. Look, TikTok makes me...
It's still not down there, though, is it? It's not. No. Sorry, Paul, but it's not down there. Like, I'll go and fish out my Lovenkrands top from when we were in the Championship for the first time. Like it's not as low as they think it is. Look at Bolton, look at Leeds, look at even Sunderland. Like these people just whinging. You don't know what
they haven't a clue what it's like.
They haven't got a clue.
They live in it. We've said this for years now that the Manchester United fans and Arsenal fans to a degree as well, they are living in the past. I mean, Arsenal a little bit different. Obviously, they're still a very decent side, but when
the media are enabling this though, because
of course,
like the Bryan Mbeumo situation, they just keep talking about the links to Arsenal and Manchester United. Nobody's dropping our name into that conversation, even though we've been heavily linked previously, and we need a right winger. We have one at the club. Why are we being omitted from these conversations? It's media driven, and Keith Downey can say it's not, and there is no agenda. Fine, but why are we not putting these articles? And Keith can't speak for other companies, but why are we being omitted from all of these journalistic? You know, okay, if Fabrizio Romano's just said it, fine. But over the last few days, we have been omitted from a lot of the articles and interviews regarding Mbeumo. They've just talked about Man U and Arsenal. So, which doesn't make sense because we've been linked with him for the last 12 months, maybe more than that. And we literally need a right winger.
Arsenal has never been mentioned with Mbeumo, by the way. This is the first time.
Recently,
I just think that they throw other clubs in there. And you talk about media-driven, Alex. I think a lot of the transfer window is media-driven. You know, 80% of it is media-driven. Because
I wonder if Arsenal would sign Mbeumo as a straightforward centre-forward, though, and not on the right, as we would use him for.
Yeah, but he's not a straight-out centre-forward, so they're taking a big risk doing that.
I mean, they'd be playing Havertz there. He's not centre forward either, have they? So,
well, Havertz is.
I don't think they'd be in for him myself personally. But as I say, as we all say, he's a right-sided forward. They've got Saka and Nwaneri and other players that can play there. So,
I mean, Bryan Mbeumo himself, though, Billy, came out and said that St James's Park, one of his favourite places to play. Yeah. And I get, if you saying that, you've got an opportunity. And let's be honest, he's going to be playing, if he comes to Newcastle, he'll play a lot of football. You know, he'll get a lot of football. He's got Champions League as well. And, you know, he can be in for trophies. And nothing against Brentford, but Brentford haven't won anything. And he now wants to take that next step. Brentford, and they're perfectly within the rights to do it, want as much as money as they can for him. So they can go and sort of buy other players. And there's nothing against Brentford for that. But I think when you're talking about Mbeumo and where he wants to be, he's got a massive chance to win things at Newcastle United. A huge chance. And when other fan bases try and put us down as if to say we're just a little fish in a big pond, you're wrong, because we are turning into a great white shark in a fucking little river right now.
With Gatecrash, they're closed shop. They don't like it. And every year, one of them's out of this big six. There's more than one this year, but you know, the Man United down in 15th and Spurs down in 17th.
Absolutely.
Christ almighty.
Yeah. A couple of super chats to go through. DK35, Fraser Forster and Regulon have been released by Spurs.
Fraser Forster would work as a home and trained at club, wouldn't he?
Billy, go wash your mouth out.
I knew that was coming. How many veteran goalkeepers are we? It's our goalkeeping selection is turning into an OAP home right now.
He felt a bit 2 years ago when we played
them. He's not going to play, is he? He's
not
going to play, is he?
Yeah, but we don't need to sign more than Billy. We'll be when they come out to
warm
up, we'll be wheeling them out. Yeah, interesting. Sean Stevenson, a member for 28 months. Thank you for your support, Sean. Great show as always, everyone. It's great to be part of TTR. And Warren Dinning with a super chat saying, and Mbeumo and Gehi for first team, and Gittins, Mainu, McAtee, and Abrahams for the squad. I think Gittins would be I think he'd be straight in the first team. You know, nothing against Jacob Murphy, but if you're talking about putting Gittins against Murphy, I'd have Gittins starting every time. But Jacob probably knows that anyway, that he's going to be pretty much a squad player next year.
More left.
He can play a lot on the right as well, though. And I think if we sign Gittins, Billy, it would probably be for the right. But then again, I've been wrong in the past. I'll probably be wrong with that as well. One signing, Alex, that looks like it may take place. Ryan Cherky looks like Manchester City are sniffing around. Again, another player that was linked with us.
Very exciting one, to be completely honest. It's one that I would prefer us to have, but I just don't think stylistically we would go for a player like that. I'm not sure it's Eddie Howe's bag, to be honest. But I'd be excited to see a player like that in the Premier League, which I know is some people might be angry with. I have got an opinion like that, but I just like to see good football. I miss the days where we had an Eden Hazard and I want Rabonas and step overs. It's fun. It's what gets people off their seats. And
well, Billy said we've been
we've been the club
be in the Premier League.
Exactly. We've been the club that's had a lot of them in the last 20 years. Not always, but sometimes. It'd be good to have somebody in the Premier League that can do that. And yeah, it could be interesting. I think he's missing a lot of qualities that you might need. But again, that comment could age very badly. That might age like milk because Eden Hazard wasn't built very well and he was fine. So Cherky could surprise a lot of people. But just as a general observation, is he going to be able to do the sort of the physicality, the aerial duels, the tracking back, the defending, the reading of the game, the decision-making required in English football? I don't know. It doesn't look like he can, but he possibly could. But he's an absolute... I'm talking down on Ryan Cherky. This boy is an absolute wizard. A freak of nature wizard. Yeah. He was literally... like dipped by a wizard in a pond of magic. Like he's a freak with his feet, and it would be lovely to see him in English football because I want eyes on the Premier League, and it would be fun. But obviously, you want players like that playing in the black and white, really. But I think he's a gamble because I think Fulham looked at him, and I can't remember why that never happened. I don't know if Fulham went if I can't remember why it broke down, but it would be exciting, I guess.
Father Jack says, for me, I would get rid of Murphy. He's had a decent season, but for me, he's a championship player. I think that's extremely harsh.
He got 20 goal contributions in the Premier League, mate. That is categorically incorrect. Factually incorrect.
Really harsh.
You can't score 20. You can't get 20 goal contributions in the Prem if you're a championship player.
Yeah.
That's Dwight Gale is a championship player. Jacob Murphy has done more than Dwight Gale's ever done.
Yeah. Jazz says with a super chat, thank you, Jazz. If we didn't get Mbeumo, who would you want for right wing?
There's a lot of options, really.
I mean, there's a whole host of options, isn't there? I mean, we've said that many times in the past who we have. I just want an elite right winger to go with our elite left side and our elite striker. That
Well, but would you take promising like a Niklas Kuhn or an Akliush? Would you take one like that where it's not?
I would
guaranteed?
take Kuhn. I would definitely take Kuhn because I think, we've seen him perform really well. You went through him in a transfer show, Alex, and he has been linked, albeit
Champions League
lightly, but he's played Champions League. Yeah, he's a very good player. But I think, if I'm being honest, I do want to see an elite right side player come in, somebody who will get bums off seats when he gets the ball. There's loads of them out there, but I think because we've been so fixated on Mbeumo for so long, and we know how good he is. He's Premier League proven as well. I think that gives you a head start when he's played in the Premier League. I still think
I don't think it's risk free, Bryan Mbeumo. Let's be real. 7.5 XG from open play. His non-penalty XG was like 7.5. So if you take the penalties out of the equation, he should have got around 7.5 goals. That's what the data suggests. So if he can overperform that consistently, you're looking at 10, 11.
Oh God,
like 12 at an absolute push. I don't know how sustainable that is. I don't know, but maybe we can keep that going and we can get him more chances and opportunities because he looks like he will continuously break XG models because he's so clinical. He's very good. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think it's a complete risk-free transfer. I think there is a question mark over it.
Oh, there was a link with this and Bradley Barcola the other day. 42 million.
42, yeah, I saw that.
He play on the left?
He does both, isn't he? He's another one that does both.
I mean, I wouldn't say no.
He come on last night. He was, saying that to zero do last night was unbelievable, wasn't he?
Oh, different class.
Oh, I can't believe we didn't get that boy. Desiree Doué is another one like Cherky that is just a wizard on the night. Oh, he didn't even do any trickery. It was just his counter-attacking and just technical ability.
He's going to be incredible. The new Mbappe, I think.
He's good.
Peter Garthwaite with another super chat saying it's laughable that Sky Sports claim that Mbeumo isn't bothered about Champions League if he goes to Manchester United. Yeah, I saw that, but that's just typical of Sky, isn't it? You know, where their fixed agendas are.
Suddenly they're not bothered about the Champions League.
Yeah,
all of a sudden.
Yeah. You ask any player where they want, what European competition that most excites them, and it's the Champions League. And there is no project at Manchester United at the minute. There's not even a process there. They're in the mire. They're in the turmoil right now. It's not even a football club. It's just getting ripped apart from the inside out. There's nothing to go to Man United for.
Well, they can go for the Eurovision Song Contest. About anything they can go in for in Europe next year.
Well, exactly. Gary Clark with a super chat. Thank you, Gary. This is the time of the year when even the good pundits become pungents. I believe no transfer until it happens. Happy to have level heads like you four to listen to. Hi, Sam. Ronald Turnbull says PIF CEO says he wants the Toon as number one, but why do they buy all the players from other teams and not the Toon?
Perhaps I'm worried about, fines and things, kind of favourability. Maybe they're just doing it so openly that they can't get criticised or fined or looked into, let's say.
Absolutely. Emma with the super chat. Thanks, Emma. Can't wait to receive my TTR hoodies and hat. And a great show as always. Loving the new home kit shirt. Had it on today. Toon. Yeah, I've got mine on. It's bloody lovely, Billy, isn't it? It's a really comfortable fit as well.
Yeah, really roomy, isn't it? Another one. Another roomy top.
You can tell the class apart from Adidas to Castor, can't you? I mean, it's just chalk and cheese. It really is. Absolutely. Al Hilal, 100 million for Longstaff. Here we go. Yeah, that probably, definitely not going to happen. But are you guys still confident that something's going to happen in the first 10 days for us?
I mean, yeah, why not? It should do.
I think it should as well, without a doubt.
I mean, Paul Mitchell's leaving at the end of June. If we don't sign someone in the first 10 days, they might as well just let him go now, mightn't they?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, is he leaving at the end of June because they have work to do in this first 10 days that Mitchell's agreed to stay at the end of June to get these deals done? That's an option, isn't it?
Absolutely is.
Because you're right. What's the point?
I'm not confident. I'm not super confident, but I would be surprised if we don't. I think the plan is to do that, but it's not always that straightforward.
Ruffy Benisian with a super chat. Thank you, mate. A Cluj if we don't get Mbeumo. Riskier Champions League proven.
How did he do? Because I haven't looked at Akliush for 5 or 6 weeks. How did he finish the season?
He was in the FIFA team this season for the French League.
5 goals, 10 assists in League 1. Oh, God, he got 9 XG and only scored 5 goals. He should have scored a lot more. Okay, he ran massively cold. 2 goals in the Champions League, 2 assists. Yeah, he's good option.
Yeah,
Very
by the way, we have to talk about this, guys, because another striker that is getting linked again in the last couple of days is Calvert-Lewin.
I haven't seen those linked. Where have you seen them?
I've seen about 3 today. It's the 3 articles, and even the Chronicle. I say even the Chronicle.
I don't have that. I don't have the Chronicle on my list of stuff to talk about transfers from.
Apparently, Newcastle were keen 12 months ago, but opted not to follow up an initial inquiry after learning Everton's demands. But the player will leave Everton on a free transfer this summer and is keen to remain in the Premier League. He would be happy to be a backup option for Isak. And basically, his injury record, he believes his injuries are behind him and could come to Newcastle and be an easy fit for that reserve striker. Now, Alex,
that's an easy thing to say, isn't it, Mark? I believe my injuries are behind me when you can't see in the distant future.
Well, yeah, but you talk about free transfers and being risk-free, Alex. I mean, he would be free.
Right. Okay. Right. Let's lay this out factually.
Yes, please.
Is he probably better than Callum Wilson at the moment? I think yes. Okay, that's not factually. That's an opinion-based thing. Fine, whatever. I think he's probably better than Callum Wilson right now. He's 28 years old, so he is, 4 years younger. 5 years younger. If he's apparently, according to what you just said, Paul, he's okay with a backup to Isak. So in theory, it's a decent replacement for Wilson because you're improving the net quality of the squad. You're dropping the age 5 years.
Yeah.
And possibly, I don't think Calvert-Lewin would throw his toys out the pram if you showed him a contract which suggested, look, you're going to have to stay fit to achieve a lot of this contract. I think he'd probably be fair with that. That being said, I would still kind of prefer to go in a different direction, just on my personal taste of squad building. And that's just a me thing. Logically, it does make sense. You're improving on Wilson and it would be fine. It's just not really for me.
Can I be honest?
Somewhere else.
I would rather have Jamie Vardy than Calvert-Lewin.
He's 10 years old.
Yeah, how it, guys? I mean, yeah, but Vardy's still scoring bang.
But there's the potential for Calvert-Lewin to work. That's where it's intriguing. Is if it could work, he's 28, so you might get 3 tidy years out of him. But that's the problem. Is it's super high risk because he's not shown that for a long time.
Yeah.
So it is. But is it high risk because it's free? It's like, yeah, it's really tricky.
I don't think Calvert-Lewin fits like our style of play either, at all.
Yeah, he's more of a long ball punt kind of forward, isn't he?
He's got a bit more about him than people give him credit for, but he's just.
I think he has as well, but it's the injuries that put me off Calvert-Lewin. I think his gameplay. I think he's a really decent player,
and he'll lose the fan base real quick if he signs and he picks up a reasonable injury in the first 3 months. Fans will turn straight away because we've been sick of it with Wilson. We've supported Wilson, but we are a bit sick of it. Like, and it's not his fault.
I don't think it's shown enough ambition if we went for a Calvert-Lewin or a Jamie Vardy, to be fair. I think we can get better.
Yeah, but it's delaying it, right? It's
It's
delaying the need to go, because strikers are expensive. It's delaying the need to go and sign a big striker. You get to put that 2 or 3 years in the future so we can put money into a Fabian Schär upgrade and younger player, a right wing. You know, it's not that it's not that he's the guy. It's just let's plug this gap for 2 years because it kind of works. It might be that.
Of course, we've got Will Asula, who is still there. Let's not forget he's going to play a big part. But then again, is Eddie seeing him as a striker or a right-sided player? I don't know. Peter Merrifield with a super chat saying, good evening, Paul, Billy and Stato. I bought my new shirt today, Toon. DK35 with a super chat saying, Liverpool signed Frimpong day one because they were doing work on it weeks ago. Why didn't we? Howe said he wanted things done quickly.
Well, the difference is Liverpool were guaranteed Champions League football weeks ago. We weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, Liverpool could talk to a lot of players with a Champions League aspiration. Newcastle may well have approached players and said, see where the sort of ground lay with certain players. But obviously those players would turn around and say it would be dependent on Champions League. A lot of players would probably say that. And like Billy's just said, it went down to the last day with us, so we couldn't really work on them. It's just what players want these days, isn't it? It's incredible. Now, Callum Wilson, there's 3 clubs look like being very interested in taking him. Obviously, this is on a free transfer. Leeds United still sniffing around. Everton have come into the fray. And, of course, Wrexham is still there. Now, out of the 3, if you were Callum Wilson, Billy, where would you probably look to go?
Probably Everton.
Really? You go to Everton?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, or Leeds. Yeah, I'd choose the Premiership. Opportunity is more dollar, isn't it?
Well, yeah, he's got an opportunity to stay in the Premier. Well, you say that, Billy, but Wrexham could offer him quite a bit of money.
They can't. The PSR's stripped down there, definitely.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah,
they are handicapped in the Championship with financially. They've got to be careful.
Emma with a super chat again saying, I finally converted my daughter. Her shirt comes tomorrow with Miley on the back. Nice one. Nice one. Other players linked to leaving the club is, of course, Sean Longstaff. But again, the Longstaff rumours have sort of calmed down over the last week or so in the build-up to the window opening. Of course, heavily linked with Leeds, which I thought would have been a great move for him. But apparently Alex Everton's still in there as well. So, I think Sean will leave in the summer. I think he wants to play first team football.
I mean, realistically, we are not going to hit this Champions League squad quota. Like, I read an article on, I think it was NUFC blog, the .co.uk one.
Yeah,
I can't remember who the writer was, and it was wasted. It was a wasted article because he just talked about Tim Krul and Forster and Freddie Woodman. So all three goalkeepers.
We're bringing all of them back as well.
No. So I think that's done. We're going to have to. We've made our bed. We sold an academy player in Anderson. We're just going to have to wait until we actually hatch some players out of eggs properly. We've been building the academy for the last few years very, very well, and a lot of this crop are going to qualify as homegrown trained at club pretty soon in the next few years. So this is not going to be a problem for much longer. It's just the next couple of years while we sort this out. Then it's going to be fine. So I just think we need to knock that on the head and just whatever. We're going to have to register a smaller squad for the Champions League. It is what it is. I think I'd be surprised if the club go a different direction with that. So I think the journalists can probably stop writing about it constantly. And then if that then applies, there is an exit for Sean potentially. I think either one of Sean or Joe Willock goes. I think one of them will go because it's going to generate funds. I'm pretty sure Joe Willock must be paid off in full by now. He's got to be. And then Sean is
still heavily linked with Fulham, by the way, for 25 million.
Yeah, back to London, and then Sean is an interesting move. It'd be pure profit as well. And if both of them have not really contributed much in terms of minutes and contribution to the squad this year, both a little bit in the cups. But get rid of one, we can get 15, 20, 25 if we really push the boat out there. That is a huge amount of money to then put back into squad investment. So, and I wouldn't be overly disappointed if we got rid of one of them. I'm not even too bothered which one it is. I think we've got to stop being so sentimental. We need to build this squad. We need to kick on. Yeah. This team has done very well in the season just gone, but to compete on another front as big as the Champions League with extra games this time, we need reinforcements. Gondor calls for aid, literally. Light the torches. Yeah. This squad needs help. Like Eddie Howe has been working very limited resources for too long.
Billy, listen to this headline. And this is exactly what I mean about everybody trying to put Newcastle down, right? Listen to this. Newcastle United miss out on the Champions League placing if you take into account the Premier League table without VAR errors.
Oh, dear me. Newcastle would also miss out if teams that played strikes weren't allowed to be in it.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's incredible.
Well, VAR errors is subjective, surely.
The Telegraph, one paper which it's an awful paper, but there you go. One headline: surely the ownership of Newcastle United by a state is sports washing. Yesterday, congratulations to PSG on winning the Champions League.
Yeah, Qatari-based owners. Yeah.
Come
on. I know. Barry the Beast says Newcastle miss out on Champions League if Newcastle was banned from the Champions League. It's pathetic. They just can't hack it. They hate us being there. Jens with another super chat says, on another note, hats off to Luis Enrique. 11 out of 11 finals won, and the amazing gesture to his daughter. Probably the only one I would replace Howe with. The man's been through hell, to be honest. And to be fair, his assistant lost his wife recently as well. So it was very, very emotional night for them too. But, you've got to take your hats off to Luis Enrique. 11 out of 11 finals won is an incredible stat. So you have to say, well, and listen, since he got rid of they've actually put a team together and got rid of individuals, they look so much better. So much better. Chip is with a super chat saying, I don't get how fans mourn as we apparently lose players to clubs like Madrid. I just don't get it, me. Who've lost to Madrid?
Nobody. I think it was maybe just a general idea.
Yeah,
possibly, I mean, if we lose a player to a team that's, that's where we maybe can't complain. If a club comes knocking that might be able to win the Champions League next year, then of course the player might be interested. You know, if they can do one transfer and win the Champions League, then it's an interesting move, right? But there's only a handful of clubs that tick that box. You know, you probably City and Liverpool, and we wouldn't probably want to do business with them because they're rivals. And then you're looking at PSG, Bayern Munich, Madrid, Barcelona, or Real Madrid. Sorry, Atletico there. Milan. So there's like 5 or 6 teams maybe that are in for a shout, possibly Inter because they've gone deep 3 years in a row. So yeah.
By the way, I'm just reading an article on the MAG website, the independent one. It sent out a questionnaire to regular contributors of the MAG to the articles, etc. And the first question was, have you at any point during his time at Newcastle United thought that Eddie Howe's position should be under question? And the majority said yes. But they all put that they still couldn't believe that they did that. It was around the time that they were languishing in mid-table, but we were wrong about him, and we're quite embarrassed about feeling like that now. But I don't see why you should be embarrassed. 3 words to describe how you currently feel as a Newcastle United fan: proud, optimistic, and fulfilled. Do you feel fulfilled, Billy?
No, not yet. I want to see a league title, an FA Cup, and a Champions League. I want to see all 3 of those. Then I'll be fulfilled.
I mean, you don't ask for much.
I'm satisfied, but I'm not fulfilled.
Alex, do you feel fulfilled?
Can I just on a point on that? Well, yeah, I'll answer the question, Paul. I do to an extent, but there is more. I was having this conversation with my friend at the gym yesterday, and it was because it was just before the Champions League final was on. And it was how long it's taken Man City and PSG to win the Champions League post big money takeover. And it's kind of it's given me a bit of new perspective in that it's taken them about 15, 16 years-ish. Sorry if I'm wrong by a year or 2, whatever it is. It's roughly that. It's taken them both 15, 16 years, and they had no real rules restrictions when they first got to just put unlimited money in. So do we need to adjust our expectations to a degree? Maybe everybody's talked about the 5 to 10 years stamp from Amanda, and you know, maybe winning the league title might be sooner, but well, I guess Liverpool went and won the Champions League a couple of times before they managed to sort a title out, so you never know in football, you never know. But it did take 2 big clubs financially in City and PSG to I don't know. I think maybe we've got to be patient with this. I think there's a few people wanting everything as quick as possible. We're 3 years in, guys. It's still super early, and we are well ahead of schedule. With the amount of elite players we've got in the team is outrageous, and how good we can play football and our finishes. We're so ahead of schedule. Like realistically, if you'd have asked us 3 years ago, when do you think we're going to be challenging for the Champions League regularly and looking really strong, you wouldn't have said straight away, which is what it was. Eddie Howe came in, got his January signings in, and our trajectory has been basically top 4, top 5 in points since Eddie Howe's been in. So it was immediately, which is crazy.
Team Season asking me a question here. Honestly, if Howe fails in Europe again, and let's be honest, 1 win in 6, will the owners rethink as the league? He's amazing, but failure in Europe can cost managers jobs. No, I don't. Because if you remember the last time, it was only a disgraceful penalty decision in Paris that denied us moving up to next round. Yeah.
He's done you dirty there, Paul. That is a very loaded question. I'm not sure we've failed in Europe. That's really harsh. There's definitely context.
Yeah.
But it's different. It's different kind of way to do it this year. We've got we'll have 8 games. And it won't be in a group of death. It'll be against some teams. Will be winnable games. Some will be big games.
And hopefully we'll have a much bigger squad as well to cope with the amount of games that we play.
Context-wise, the group of A, we got the group of death. B, the Dortmund game was a 1-0 loss and a 1-0 loss against a team that got to the final that year. May I add? The actual away game against PSG was a farce. It was a mistake. They shouldn't have had that penalty. We should have had 3 points. And we got a good draw away at the San Siro. And then the AC Milan game, we could have shut up shop to get a draw and drop into the Europa League. And how as always, Eddie Howe says he does. He wants to play for the win. He threw the kitchen sink at the game and we lost. Like, the context is he did very well.
Miggy had actually used his right foot instead of his left, and we might have got something out of the game.
Exactly.
It's little things like that. Yeah.
Eddie Howe did not control the penalty decision or Miggy's right foot. So
now, finally, guys, I'm looking at a report here saying that Newcastle could look to an alternative if Bryan Mbeumo does go elsewhere. It says Newcastle eye an incredible £75 million forward as Mbeumo alternative. Do you have any idea who that might be, guys?
Bakayoko.
Not Tyler Dinning, is it?
No, it's Mohamed Kudus.
Oh, Kudus.
No,
Kudus with West Ham in trouble. Bit high.
Well, basically, it says that he's high up on their list of targets, especially with them now being able to afford a move, despite labelling the fee at 75 million. It says Newcastle can afford a deal for Kudus as it stands. Bryan Mbeumo is their top target for that right-sided position. Kudus is on their list and has admirers within the Newcastle hierarchy and is somebody they feel could come in and strengthen their attacking options. He obviously has that release clause of around 75 million, but I don't think many Premier League clubs will be willing to pay that. Due to West Ham's situation, his suitors feel they can get him for a cheaper fee. They'll definitely be willing to listen to offers for the Ghana international. If Newcastle were to miss out on Mbeumo to Man United or somebody else, it would push Kudus further up their list of targets for the right winger role. Kudus still feels he has a lot to offer on the European scene. He's still only 24. If Newcastle come calling with Champions League football, it's something he will be open to.
I mean, I'll take you for a third of that. Maybe a bit more. Maybe
it's 40, a lot of money, that, like 75
maybe
million.
40. He's a hell of a player. But if West Ham have to sell because of the PSL, then maybe you'll get him for 40. I don't know.
I'd start at 40. 75 is outrageous.
Yeah,
he got eight goal contributions, half of what Anthony Gordon did. Absolutely no way. No way.
I wouldn't go any higher than 45 for him.
No. I mean, West Ham, look, they were expected to do a lot better. I think all of us thought they would do very well last season, given the signings they made in the summer. Yeah. I think we all did. But it was a bit of a disastrous season, and it sort of fell away. Fell away.
People are giving Kudus some hard times. He's a hell of a player.
He is.
All the tricks you want. And a change of scenery, I think, would work out for him. But of course, he's in the same boat as Mbeumo for AFCON and all that stuff in January, isn't he? So
yeah, with Ghana.
Absolutely. Kath says, failed in Europe, rubbish. We still had how many of the squad from the Championship era? We didn't fail in Europe. It was a very exciting spell in Europe and decisions. I mean, the bonkers decision in Paris, which was an absolute farce, that was the reason we didn't go through, because the penalty. Simple as that.
We were unbeaten against the team that's just won the Champions League. I'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, don't know about Kudus being too much and West Ham trying to rip people off. It's a release clause. It's in his contract.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a rip-off. Like, Kudus from 2 seasons ago, you know, the expectation with the potential and how he was playing, fairly realistic release clause at the time. It's obviously just not gone very well recently.
The fact is, though, he's still only 24, and it would be a really good age to get him, but not for 75, no way. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the show for tonight, done and dusted. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed yourselves and enjoyed the show, hit that thumbs up button. Very important we keep those coming in. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. I've seen a lot of new names in the chat tonight, so thank you very much, and please do subscribe. It is completely free. We're very close to 39,000 now. We're building very, very quickly, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live show. Thank you to channel sponsor Mamaroo Records. If you're ever in Whitley Bay Town Centre, call in and see Steve for all your vinyls, your music merch, sport merch, gift cards, CDs, everything. Call in. If you can't get into Whitley Bay, check them out online. It's pinned at the top of the description along with our website. That is the toonreview.com, your place to go for all your Toon Review merchandise. Thank you, everybody, for who has placed orders as well. A lot of people have already got them as well. So thank you very much. That's the toonreview.com. Thank you to the mods. Thank you very much to Billy and Alex. And, of course, thank you to you guys for your super chats, your memberships, and for basically tuning in and spending an hour of your Sunday evening with us. no doubt we will be. There'll be a lot of shows from the Toon Review in the coming week with this transfer window open. So just make sure you got your notifications on because yeah, we will either do videos or go live if any breaking news comes up, depending on how big the story is, of course. So thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, folks, and we'll see you very soon. Good night.
We're the lads and lasses.
Come back and check out some green.